Good morning. A little bit later today. It's about 20 past 11. That's because the missus said she wanted to go shopping. As she said, we go shopping at 9:30, and then she said, oh, can we make it 10:30? And then the cat come out of the bedroom and plonked itself down on her lap. So she said, can we make it 11 o'clock? And then she said, can we go tomorrow? So, yeah. Anyway, what am I going to start off waffling about today? Don't know whether you'd be interested or not on what has become sort of my nightly routine when I finish down here. I go back up into my computer room, I download the footage, whack them in to the video editor, then I create the video, upload that to YouTube, add in descriptions and what have you. But I also rip some CDs, going through my CD collection and ripping them so I can use them in the jukebox. I also look at laser projects, laser files, etc. And last night, I think I said about it yesterday, about 3D printing a bezel for the monitor. So I designed one of them in Tinkercad and realised it's too big for my printer bed. Then I went down a wormhole of learning how to split pieces in Tinkercad, which I've finally done. Then when I looked at Bamboo Labs, they got a split option, and I thought, dope. But Bamboo Labs, you can only split into objects or parts, and I couldn't do that with a bezel. Then I found out there was a cut option, and after faffing about with that for ages, because yes, it does cut it, but then you've got to save the individual STLs and then import them back in again, because the cut object that it comes up with you can't split, so it cuts it in two. You end up with two objects, but you can't split them into individual, so you have to download the STLs and re-import them individually, which was a pain in the ass. Anyway, I thought I'd try one, and it turned out absolute crap. Now I think that's the filament's fault, because I think it needs drying. But yeah, so I thought I'd try again just with a black one. That's come out better, but in Tinkercad, when you put a radius on to round the corners, not only does it do that, but it puts a radius all the way around the edge, which my 3D printer doesn't like. So, and I don't know whether you can, but it looks absolutely crap. So I'm just going to see what it looks like around the monitor. But then I suddenly thought this morning, why not cut a bezel on the laser? So I might do that. So I'm debating whether to actually spray that knob with the rust, which I might do, but it's supposed to rain today, but that's only a small bit, so I might be able to quickly nip outside. Something else that dawned on me is I've rust coated the speaker grill and the sub grill, and the bolts I'm going to be putting through are all nice and shiny, so I might drill a few holes in some spare plywood and spray them as well. I also want to check some really thin mylar that I've got to see whether I can laser cut that, and I've also got the painted small bit of board, and that's the one that underneath has got the red, blue and yellow, so I want to play around with that, although that does still feel a little bit tacky for some reason. Maybe it's just cold, but yeah, onwards and upwards. I might try the bezel first to see what it looks like, but yeah, right, let's get some things done. Well, that took longer than expected. I've just mounted all the screws and the knob. I was looking for a bit of polystyrene, which you normally have a bit laying about, but I couldn't find a bit, and then I could just press them into it and spray away. But right, let's see if I can get this done a bit sharpish before it starts raining. Well, that ain't come out too bad. You can certainly tell the difference between a decent can of paint and a cheap can of paint, because the coverage on this is 5 times better than the cheap stuff, and it comes out with a stronger force. So I'll let them dry now and start unmasking this, I think. I wonder if, yeah, okay, I'll do that next. One thing I didn't do when I 3D printed them was round the inner corners as well. So, but I don't know what that looks like really. I might try a laser cut one and hope I get it right, because you basically have to sacrifice one 300 by 300 sheet just to cut that bezel out. Does leave you with a lot of spare in the middle though, but yeah, see how that goes, and if I get the rounded corners right. I just used some scrap wood and cut some different rounded corners for the that is a 5 rounded, and that looks a little too sharp. That's a 7, and that looks almost perfect. So I'm going to go with a 7 on the inside and on the outside. Yeah. Okay. Hit a problem with a 300 sheet. you're going to have hardly any bezel at all. So I need to cut it from an A3 sheet, which I don't think I've got any left. And the other, I just realised why I designed it with a rectangular in the middle, because I designed it to fit under the screen and not just around it. It was under it, so when you bolt the screen in, it holds the bezel in place. Don't really know what to do now, but I've been mucking around just with some card to knock a few pieces of artwork up, and that's the other thing about the artwork. I don't know what to do, whether to use stencils and spray it on, or use vinyl of some sort and stick it on. So like sort of cut that out of vinyl and stick it on. Or I have got, which is supposed to be fully transparent, inkjet vinyl. So I could possibly print something out of that, or print some album covers, some classic album covers, and just paste them around the sides, the top and the back. But I've also run some tests on the miler when I can find it. Oh, I don't know what I've done with it now. Oh, come on. Oh, here it is. I run some tests. Oh, bloody hell. I run some tests on that with different speeds and different powers to see which give me the best cut, and I think it's that last one, which is there. So that is like sort of stencil material. So I did try another one, but this is going to be a bit of a faff around, because it's like comes in three bits, and I'm not quite sure in what order I would spray it, so I might experiment with that. Right, I might see if I can glue the amp holder into place now and start getting things mounted. Otherwise I'll just be faffing about with playing around with the laser designs and everything all day, and I can do that of a night. A3 ply. Okay. Things are going nowhere fast here, because to assemble everything I've got to use the nuts and bolts that I've just painted. which are not fully dry yet, obviously in the time. So what I've done, I've just turned my little fan heater up and I've placed the nuts and bolts and that in the front of that, so I hope they're dry enough, and I'll try that. Also been playing with a laser again and wondering why it cuts 1 minute but it doesn't cut the next, until you suddenly realise you haven't adjusted the focal length on it, you haven't moved it up or down. So that was set for something like 4 to 6 millimetre thick, not 3mm. So yeah, everything's going a bit wrong today, but never mind, carry on. I've decided to slow down. I'm trying to get too much done and making stupid mistakes and things ain't going right. So let's see if I can at least get the base done today. I've only got about an hour and a half left. It's coming up to 3 o'clock now, since 11 o'clock this morning, and I ain't really got jack shit done. But yeah, we'll see how this goes. I said I was going to drill a hole through the foam for the wires to come up to the console. I'm not. I'm just going to cross cut it with a scalpel, and that way it should seal the wires when they come through. Anyway, come on Phil, at least get something done. Yay, something's done. I've got the feet on and the speakers in, and I don't think that looks too bad. That one thing I didn't plan for is when I tighten the screws up on the bottom grill, you can't see it from there, but if I tilt it, it has bowed out the corners, but that sort of gives it the bowed metal look. At least that's what I'm saying and sticking with. But yeah, and it's lucky I was an ex-gas engineer and able to work just by feel, not by sight, because this mounting this was as fiddly as anything. And at one point I was saying, if I drop one more effing washer or screw on the floor, I'm gonna scream, because I've got that honeycomb flooring. Hold it, have a butcher's. I've got that flooring, so of course every time you drop something it goes in a poxy hole and you have to arse about with that. But yeah, I'll try. I think I've only got, it's about 3:45 now. I've only got, I'll see if I can find me crimps and what have you. Oh, and that was the thing last time when I was crimping, they were well over crimping, so I want to adjust that. But at least if I can get the wires at the top tonight, then that is basically the base complete. So that's what I'm aiming for, and I've got about 45 minutes to do it. And it is tipping down with rain, and I've just realised I've got no beer in the fridge, it's in the boot of my car. So I'm going to get wet, and the beer's not going to be that cold. What a great day. Right, there's everything wired up in there. Still not too keen on them subwoofer ones because they're pretty manky. The actual connections are so flimsy, but that's all wired up, and you can fit the top when it, I can't do that with one hand, I've got to, yes I can. That's on and everything's labelled right, and the sub, that one's not, because there's only one thing left and that's the left. So at least I got that done today, so I can screw that down and that's that done, and onto the console. Although I have got to go shopping tomorrow, so that will probably be a limited day. But yeah, now I'm going to get wet, go indoors, go out again to the boot of the car, get wet, come back in, put a couple of beers in the freezer, download this, make a video, and that'll be that. And I'll see you all tomorrow.